Candid Frank Stanisci of what show are we doing here? Let me see. It's Monday. It's 6. Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Radio Network, Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me as usual is Aaron William Freeland. Hi, Aaron. How you doing?
Doing well, Frank. How are you today?
Oh, my Windows updated again, and I watched this for until about 2 minutes before the show.
So
For about an
I'm
hour and a
guessing you
half.
haven't been working outside then because you're not wearing a turtleneck, yeah?
Well, I was working outside, and I kept coming back inside, and this is what I kept seeing. So I kept seeing that.
Consistency.
And I go outside. So what I did was I opened the curtains in the office because the office looks into the new deck that I put in, and I would hammer here, nail there, screw there, and then I'd come over for a walk to look at the TV, the monitor, sorry, because the computer. And this is what it was doing. And it was doing this for an hour and a half. It did this. And about maybe 5-10 minutes before the show, it said, wait a minute. I said, it's done. And it said, now I'm going to turn on. And it stayed there like this for another 10 minutes till about 7 minutes before the show. And then it did this and it said, I'm here. And I went, oh, good. Don't you love computers? So it put me in a kind of, let's just say, the kind of mood. Well, then, of course, there was the incident with the Canadian Tire.
Yes, well.
Customer, not so much service.
Well, I mean, they did service you, just not in the way you were expecting.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of putting it. I'd put it a different way, but this is a family show. Okay, in all seriousness, wasn't I serious a second ago? I don't know. I guess I wasn't. All right, let's get to sports. And today we had a chance to talk to Orlando Steinauer, and of course that coach guy in Edmonton, that guy there, the guy that coached them and then left, won a Grey Cup, and then left for Saskatchewan.
Oh, that guy.
Chris Jones.
How'd that go?
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. I'm glad he's back. We need more people like that in the Canadian Football League. This is a guy that generates news just by his existence, which is fantastic. And Hamilton, Orlando Steinauer has now been promoted, so he's a president, right? So he's like pinball, right? He's doing everything right down to coaching. And the guys worked really hard. He deserves it really well. Very proud of the job that he's done. And you know what? It looks pretty good for the Ticats. They look like they're going to have some fun. They're bringing in some interesting players. Some holes have been developed. Some of them, for example, one came to Toronto. Brandon came to Toronto. They're working on their offense without him, and their offense worked without him for a lot of last year. So they're accustomed to what it's like to be without Brandon. But I'll tell you, Argo fans are going to look forward to being with him. Tell us about Calgary. Apparently, they're doing some interesting stuff.
Yep, Calgary's having a bit of a time here. I don't know if you remember a guy by the name of John Cornish. Does that ring a bell at all?
John Cornish. Cornish. I don't know why I'm thinking. No, I'm not going to say that. John Cornish, one of the greatest running backs in CFL history, not just Calgary.
Yeah. So he helped Calgary win a couple Grey Cups, 2008, sorry, and 2014. Top Canadian 3 times, 2012 through 2014. He has actually been named as the Chancellor of the University of Calgary, which is kind of neat. His term will begin on July 1st. He'll be replacing Deborah Yedlin, who is a former journalist and president of the Calgary Chamber of Commerce. So he's gone from the gridiron to a different kind of gridiron. He'll be facing people down across the conference table in a boardroom now as the Chancellor-elect of the University of Calgary. So that's awesome news for him.
Yeah. Good for him. Stuff's happening in Ottawa, too.
Yeah.
Should I duck for this one?
You may want to. It's kind of a quacker's story. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That's okay.
Devlin Duck Hodges has actually retired. The 6'1", 210-pounder appeared in 4 games with Ottawa last season. He's only 26 years old. Now, he completed 16 of 38 passes for 139 yards. That's a 42.1% completion ratio. But he's decided that he is going to be retiring from professional football, or at least from the CFL.
Yeah, there's always the USFL and XFL coming in a couple of years. The Blue Bombers were busy.
Yeah, they've added actually a couple Americans. They've added an offensive linebacker and a defensive tackle. Looking at Leon Johnson and Kenneth Randall, they've both been added. Now Johnson is actually joining the Bombers after a 4-year career with the Owls. He's made 10 starts at left tackle during his senior season. Johnson also signed with the NFL's Denver Broncos as an undrafted free agent in 2018, was released. Randall comes to the Blue Bombers after playing with the Golden Eagles in college. He signed with the Jaguars in 2021 as an undrafted free agent and attended the team's training camp, but that's about as far as it went. On top of that, the Bombers also signed Saunders, who's indicated that he's ready to go. So that's a good thing. It's been a while for them to get back, and Jalen Sanders is glad to be part of the team.
Never mind June. Is it May yet?
Give me preseason, baby. Let's go.
Argos. Husky wee wee. Melon heads. They're all out. All right, let's talk some hockey in the NHL. 8 Eastern Conference teams accomplish a feat never accomplished before. Aaron, what did they do that's so special?
Well, last night, it finally turns out we have 8 Eastern Conference teams who have 100 points or more.
Wow.
Yeah, that's definitely an accomplishment when you think about it. That's a lot of winning going on here. Now,
and a lot of losing for other teams.
It was interesting that the Capitals managed to get there by losing to the Maple Leafs in a shootout. But,
Yeah, no kidding. Well, historically, when you look at it, remember, there was a day when there were only 2 points awarded per game. We are now living in the inflation area created by Gary Bettman and company, where 3 points are awarded a game. Sometimes. Many times. So that kind of fattens up the pot a little bit as far as point accumulation is concerned.
Now, the interesting thing to note here is that it's mostly expansion teams that are actually getting all of these points. And when I say expansion, I don't mean recent, like the Seattle Kraken or the Vegas Golden Knights, but teams that were brought into the league after 1976. We're talking about the Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
And we're not even, in other words, we're not even talking the first 12.
No, we're talking later generations. I mean, the only original
the
6
worst
teams
team in NHL history, like the Washington Capitals. Remember that expansion team?
Oh,
did they win like 2 games, 3 games?
That was a nightmare. Them and the expansion Sharks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gods.
The Senators are looking pretty good. They're winning the odd game here. I think they're going to be pretty competitive next year, but I keep saying this every year and it doesn't happen. I don't know, but maybe reality will finally be part of my imagination.
Well, it was actually kind of cool. Mark Kastelic scored his first career goal, and his second goal of the night actually held up as the winner when they beat the Montreal Canadiens. He also had a fight after his second goal, too.
Cool.
So that was on the Saturday. Sunday afternoon, I saw him playing with the Belleville Senators against the Toronto Marlies.
Yeah, they needed that win, too.
Yeah. But, it was good for them. They finally clinched a playoff spot. The Senators did. The Marlies' magic number is still 4, so they need 4 points in their remaining 3 games. The playoff qualifications for the AHL are a little bit of voodoo wizardry and BS at this point, Frank. But it's interesting how they're deciding to do it this year. So,
shall we save a half-hour show to describe it and talk about it?
We could potentially do that.
Is it enough time?
Just about.
Okay, so we'll have to make sure Frank doesn't ramble at all. Okay, so the Habs, let's talk about them.
Well, the first game back in Montreal after having an opportunity to honor Guy Lafleur, unfortunately didn't turn out exactly the way that the Habs might have wanted. It was an original 6 matchup, so it was Habs versus Bruins. But Eric Holla had 2 goals to lift the Bruins over the Habs 5-3. It was a good game. It was well fought. It just, didn't go exactly the way they would have wanted to. So,
I can just see the flower up in heaven going, "You guys still need me."
yeah.
He would
Well,
never have let that happen. Lose to
e-
the Bruins. Ugh,
even at his
ugh,
advanced age, if he could have
absolutely,
laced them up again, oh, he would have gone.
absolutely. Yeah, and right now, if he was on the ice with them, nobody'd be able to check him because they wouldn't be able to find him. The Jets,
So the Jets are barely keeping themselves alive here. They're just sort of limping along, but they did beat the Avalanche 4-1. That is the Avalanche's fourth loss in a row. Lowry, Wheeler, and Connor scored in 3 minutes and 21 seconds in the third period to help Winnipeg get the win. Nikolai Ehlers also scored a late third period goal, and Hellebuck made 30 saves on the night. So that's a good sign. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the Colorado Avalanche here. They seem to be tripping
in a
over
funk,
their own feet, but
in a funk.
yeah, possibly.
Even in the worst funk. I don't know if you saw the game, but one of the Jets players broke one of their sticks, and they went over to the trainer to get another stick. He handed him a golf club.
That's just mean, Frank. That's just mean.
And you know what? It doesn't matter which club it is; they're not putting it in the hole. Canucks Flames.
Right. So Elias Lindholm actually got his 40th goal as the Flames beat the Canucks 6-3. This is Dylan Dubé also continued to heat up for the Flames as a secondary scoring threat. This is one of those games that you never want to see as a Canucks fan because they need every single point that they can get. I mean, obviously Calgary's already clinched. They are the cream of the division. They are the cream of the division. So it's difficult at the best of time to get points off them, but it's rough. I feel sorry for Canucks fans.
Me too. I was just gonna look and see where they stand in the in the standings. Do they have a chance to make the playoffs still? Let's see. Western Division, Vancouver Canucks. They got 6 more points in the oven. So night. Ooh,
Yeah, it's with 3
ooh,
games left and 87 points. I don't think they're making a
uh,
playoffs.
I think they might have the tiebreaker, but unfortunately, they're going to have to tie, and that's going to be a little tough. That's too bad. I love my Canadian hockey teams, my Canadian NHL teams. I wish they could all be in there. Vancouver, I'd love to see them in there. My biggest disappointment is that Winnipeg didn't make it. Montreal and Ottawa just weren't going early, so I wasn't able to really muster any enthusiasm in the hopes that they would make the playoffs. But yeah, it really hurts now, especially with Vancouver that had that late run and they looked like they had a shot. They had their great young players were playing wonderfully. It just didn't happen for them. Anyway, hopefully the future will be a little better for them. And sadly, it was the Flames, another Canadian team. Another Canadian team dealt what could be the most painful blow to the Vancouver Canucks, sadly. Let's go to the opposite end of the world. The Oilers, a team that looked like they might be out of the playoffs around Christmas, and all of a sudden they cleaned up their act. And guess what? It looks really good now. No, except for what happens recently.
Well, everybody's got to get their first goal sometime. So Nick Blankenberg finally got his first. The Oilers ended up dropping that game 5-2 to the Columbus Blue Jackets on Sunday afternoon. That helped Columbus break a 5-game losing streak. Also prevented the Oilers from sealing up second place. As it currently stands, the Oilers have clinched a playoff spot. They just haven't clinched second place yet. So
Another Toronto team has problems with the Cats team.
yeah, it's no surprise, really. The Florida Panthers won their 13th straight game to top the Maple Leafs 3-2 in overtime. Now, this is one of those games where it's a good bounce back win. It's a good bounce back game. Didn't necessarily go the way they would have wanted it to, but after losing 8-1 to Tampa Bay the night before, losing 3-2 to the Panthers is not necessarily a bad thing. It is showing signs of resilience. It just didn't seem like they had enough in the tank. This was also coincidentally the first game of a back-to-back. The next night they actually had to play the Capitals. So,
And then that darn Shalloran. What did he do to Ovechkin?
well,
He's so
it's
brittle. He's missed like 30 games his career. I mean, this guy's so injury prone, it's ridiculous. He's missed
I
30
thought it
games
was
in his
amusing that
career.
I thought it was amusing that
Holy,
people were saying that it was deliberate. I don't know how many people out there calling the trip deliberate have ever actually played the game of hockey, but having done it myself, as a general rule, if you're a goalie and you fall forward and you put your stick down, uh, and a
there's
200
multiple reasons why he had his stick out there. One of them,
well,
I hear you. I could see that. Now that you mention it, that could be a reason. My excuse for the kid was he was waving at the puck, but it was already went by, but he was waving at it. I thought he was trying to stop the puck and wave at it, and it went by, but his stick was there. The reaction time wasn't fast enough.
now I know ice is slippery, but when a 238-pound man steps on your stick, it'll stop. I mean that pretty much happens. So
And he didn't go into the boards that fast.
no, no, but and here's the other thing: if Ovechkin doesn't try to go through the blue paint, that doesn't happen. And I mean,
Yeah,
they
I
try
hear
to
you.
make it easy for the players to avoid the crease by painting it a different color than the rest of the ice and putting a bright red border around it.
I think the
So,
other reason that he got hurt was, has he ever been hit by Ovechkin?
oh, he's a big boy.
Have you ever been hit? He hit himself against the boards. Now he knows how everybody else feels when he hits them,
No, I
right?
mean
Because that guy's a tough dude.
it's a bad situation for the Washington Capitals. I wouldn't wish an injury to a top player on anyone, but at the same time, you know, these things happen. It's a game. It's a contact sport. It moves at 35 to 40 miles an hour. These things happen.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier the Marlies are in a little bit of trouble. They got to get 4 points in 3 games, which isn't that difficult. Any other comment to add on the Marlies? Is season wise?
I mean, it hasn't been their greatest season. They've been up and down in the standings.
I
As
saw
it currently,
Robertson at the end of the game there, the last few minutes, and they looked totally like it. They couldn't dig a puck out of the corner with a shovel.
it's deflating. I mean, they played a decent game. The problem is every once in a while you get these goals that go in that you just like that can't happen. And Hutchinson, while he has been playing decently this season, he's got a 903 save percentage, which
That's good.
doesn't really help. No, well, league average is 910, 912. So he's got 10 wins, 9 losses, and 3 overtime losses. So he's under 500 this year. Uh,
Well, the guy has, I mean, they say that left-handed goaltenders are hard to figure out. Again, this is an Ovechkin issue. Maybe he's having a hard time. Maybe he should change to right-handed. No, will that help?
you never know.
Might that help? No, I'm kidding. Relax, everybody out there. Soccer. Liverpool wins the derby.
So this is kind of neat. So that puts Everton into the EPL relegation zone.
Yikes!
So it's their
Yikes!
2-0 win at Anfield on Sunday dumped Everton into relegation, meaning that Everton's 68-year stay in England's top flight is now in major doubt with a month left in the season.
Yikes!
So yeah,
That's being relegated. That's like, oh my god. I don't even know what to compare it to because I've never had that bad an experience.
it's a hard thing to come back
It's
from.
horrible if you're in the first division. You don't want to be in the second division. Let's talk about the Raptors. If only they had won that third game. The game they just won yesterday would have been, or the day before that would have been far more impactful.
Well, they always say it's not a playoff series until you lose one at home. So the Raptors got that one out of the
You're in a
way.
playoff series.
Yeah, we're in a playoff series now. We're not quite all the way back in it, but we are playing with a certain amount of desperation now, which we need to do. Don't know if
Was
you
that
heard.
did I hear what? Go ahead.
Did you hear about Joel Embiid?
About his thumb?
Yeah, he's potentially
Hyperextension?
going to need surgery because there's a torn ligament, but he says he's going to wait until the end of the season to get it done.
Yeah, a lot of Raptors are going to be shaking his hand like this, then grabbing his thumb.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting because I've never, I don't know about you, but I've always heard about basketball can be physical, and most of that physicality is under the basket, and a thumb injury under the basket, it's something to be concerned about because every time he goes up to that rim, you know full well there's going to be a hand there, and if it's going to be a foul, it's going to be a good one. And
Now,
then you look at what happened to Barnes yesterday. he got tripped at the ankle.
Yep.
That was a trip.
Now, as it turns out, complaining about the referees does actually have consequences.
No kidding, especially if
Uh,
you're right.
well, and in this particular case here, Joel Embiid got fined $15,000 for public criticism of the officiating in their 110-102 loss to the Raptors on the 23rd at Scotiabank. So
This is a day or two after he complained about Coach Nurse complaining about the officials.
yeah, this is shortly after he told Nick Nurse to stop complaining, right?
Yeah,
You gotta love it.
I think he outsmarted himself.
There's just so much drama.
I got to say this though, with Joel Embiid, I love the guy as a player. I think he's fantastic, to use a word that you would use. But he's also a guy that you can put into a mental. He can melt down. You know, when the Raptors won the championship, the year they won the championship, the first team that they took out in the playoffs was Philadelphia. Remember? Well, anyway, I shouldn't rub it in. Well, maybe I should. No, but the thing is, players are people and they're very passionate, right? And sometimes you can't set your passion aside and it affects the job at hand. He's one of those guys that if you get under, if you get in his head, if you rent some space in his head, you can really ruin things for him, because just take a look at what he was before in the first two games in Philly and where he is now after that after that fourth game in Toronto.
Yeah, it's you know what, there's a certain amount of mind games that go on during the playoffs, and I think the Raptors are getting a handle on that. So.
Oh yeah, and they understand. They have some very good people, basketball minds in that organization. MLSC got lucky with who they picked in the jury, but don't forget about that old guy in the background, that experienced NBA guy that understands the way the game is played. The Raptors are run beautifully, and really, the way they lost that third game, Aaron, I don't know how they mustered up the emotion to come back with that fourth game. I got to be honest with you, because we talked about how that third game they just gave it. They gave it to the Sixers.
And losses like that are just so deflating. I mean, at the end of the day, to have the turnaround that the Raptors did and play the game that they did for Game 4 shows a great deal about the team's resilience.
Yeah, and Scotty Barnes wins Rookie of the Year. Well deserved.
Yes. Oh, definitely. I mean, for a guy that everybody thought was some people thought was a throwaway pick. Other people thought, well, he's going to replace Pascal Siakam. So bye-bye, Pascal. Now those two seem to be working together very well.
They're fine. Let's see how much news we can get before we go. We only got a couple of minutes. Investigation launched into email breach.
Yeah, so they found that an individual taking their laptop home left it unsecured, and people were able to download stuff off it.
Oh, geez.
Secure your data, people.
Russian sanctions prove Canadian military mission in Ukraine had impact. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So Fred Gilbert is one of 6 former commanders of training missions called Operation Unifier in Ukraine. He's saying that the fact that they're taking action like this means that what we're doing is effective.
A lot of people are hoping that a right-wing populist loses the election. Well, one of them lost in Slovenia, didn't they?
Exactly. So this is the Freedom Movement, won nearly 34% of the votes compared with the ruling conservative Slovenian Democratic Party. The state election authority said after counting about 90% of the ballots.
France's youngest president wins again.
Yeah, Macron pulled it out, beat Le Pen. So that's good news for all.
Ongoing strike affecting access to bus terminal at Toronto's Union Station. What a beautiful station it's become.
Oh, yeah. Well, labor issues with cleaning staff have made things a little bit difficult for the past few days. They haven't been able to go in and out.
And it's that Metrolinx.
Yeah.
MPs need the fast-track new law to seize sanctioned Russian assets.
Now, this is something that the Senate has introduced in Canada. They're calling on the House of Commons to fast-track a brand new law. This is Ratna Omidvar's bill entitled An Act Respecting the Repurposing of Certain Seized, Frozen, or Sequestered Assets. Easy
for you to say. Conservative leadership candidates propose ideas that carry some political baggage.
So we're talking about pay for healthcare, private healthcare, and reducing the number of positions for provincial healthcare.
Aaron, this was awesome. Thanks,
Frank.
My pleasure. Well, for Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, airing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news and entertainment and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now. Doo-doo-doo.